A pregnant and unemployed woman accepts a job as a nanny, but she never expected that the single father who hired her would become the love of her life. The sound of the alarm clock roused Amelia from her restless sleep. She reached out to silence it, but her fingers found only emptiness. Confused, she opened her eyes and reality hit her like a punch in the stomach. She was no longer in her comfortable room in Boston. Now, her home was an inflatable mattress on the floor of a tiny apartment in Chicago. Amelia sat up, running her hand through her disheveled hair. Her gaze wandered around the cramped space, stopping at the 2 suitcases still closed in the corner. She had only arrived 2 days ago and still hadn't found the strength to unpack them. Each object stored there was a painful reminder of the life he had left behind. She stood up with difficulty, her hand instinctively resting on the small bulge in her belly. 16 weeks. 16 weeks of an unplanned pregnancy that had turned her life upside down. "Good morning, little one," she murmured, feeling a mixture of love and apprehension. Today is the big day. As she got ready for the shower, Amelia couldn't help thinking about how her life had changed so drastically in such a short space of time. Just 2 months ago, she had a promising job in a marketing company, a boyfriend she thought was the man of her life, and ambitious plans for the future. Now at 28, she was unemployed, single and pregnant, living in a city where she knew no one. The hot water of the shower helped to relax her tense muscles, but it couldn't wash away the anxiety she felt. Today was the day of her interview for the nanny job, a job she had never imagined doing, but which now seemed like her only option. As she got dressed, carefully choosing an outfit that would disguise her still small belly, Amelia remembered the tense conversation she'd had with her parents the week before. "Amelia, are you sure about this?" Her mother's worried voice still echoed in her ears. "Moving to Chicago, working as a nanny? That's not you, dear." "And what is me, Mum?" Amelia had replied, the frustration evident in her voice. "The ambitious executive, the perfect girlfriend? Because none of that exists anymore." Her father, always more restrained, had just looked at her with a mixture of disappointment and concern. "We only want the best for you, Liv, and for the baby." Amelia sighed, pushing the memories away. She knew that her parents loved her and only wanted to protect her, but she had to do it alone. She needed to prove to herself that she could rebuild her life, that she could be a good mother, even in the most difficult circumstances. She looked at herself in the mirror one last time, adjusting the loose blouse over her belly. Her reflection showed a determined woman, but with eyes that couldn't hide her fear and uncertainty. "You can do it, Amelia," she said to herself, trying to inject confidence into her own words. "It's just an interview. You've faced worse." With one last deep sigh, she picked up her bag and left the apartment. The cold Chicago air welcomed her, making her pull her coat tighter around her body. The city streets were still strange to her, but there was something comforting about the anonymity they provided. Amelia walked to the nearest subway station, blending in with the crowd of rushing people. As she waited on the platform, her phone vibrated. It was a message from Marka, her ex-boyfriend. "Livy, we need to talk about the baby. Call me when you can." She stared at the screen for a moment, a whirlwind of emotions running through her chest. Anger, hurt, longing. With a quick movement, she deleted the message. She couldn't deal with Mark now, not today. The subway arrived, and Amelia boarded, clinging to a support bar as the train picked up speed. Her mind wandered to the interview that awaited her. The ad she had found online seemed too good to be true. A single father looking for a full-time nanny to look after his 5-year-old daughter. The salary was generous, and the job included accommodation, something Amelia desperately needed. But there were so many questions, so many uncertainties. What if her employer found out about her pregnancy? What if she wasn't qualified enough? What if... Amelia shook her head, forcing the negative thoughts away. She couldn't afford to doubt herself now, not when she had a life growing inside her depending on her decisions. The subway stopped at Lincoln Park Station, an elegant neighborhood that Amelia knew only by name. She got off, checking the address on her phone once more. The house was only a few blocks away. As she walked through the tree-lined streets, Amelia couldn't help but notice the stately homes that surrounded her. Happy families, expensive cars in their garages, manicured gardens. Everything seemed to scream, "You don't belong here." Finally, She arrived at the address. It was a red brick house with large windows and a welcoming veranda. It looked like something out of a decorating catalogue. Amelia hesitated at the gate, her heart racing. This moment could change everything. She took a deep breath, slung her bag over her shoulder, and walked to the door. Her hands trembled slightly as she pressed the doorbell. The next few seconds seemed like an eternity. Amelia could hear the sound of footsteps approaching from the other side of the door. She rehearsed her smile once more, trying to look confident and capable. The door opened. Amelia wasn't prepared for what she saw. She expected an older man, perhaps with the tired look of someone who has to deal with the challenges of fatherhood alone. Instead, she was faced with a man who must have been no older than 35, tall with broad shoulders and intense blue eyes that took her by surprise. "Ms. Parker?" he asked, his voice deep and surprisingly gentle. "Yes, it's me," Amelia replied, struggling to keep her composure. "Amelia Parker. I'm here for the interview." The man smiled, a smile that lit up his face and made something strange happen in Amelia's stomach. He held out his hand. "Nathan Caulfield. It's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Parker. Please come in." As Amelia crossed the threshold, she couldn't help feeling that she was crossing more than just the threshold of a house. She was entering a new chapter in her life, a chapter full of unknown possibilities and perhaps hope. The door closed behind her, and Amelia knew there was no turning back. Whatever fate had in store for her, it began now. The interior of Nathan Caulfield's house was as impressive as its exterior. Amelia found herself in a spacious entrance hall, with polished wooden floors and walls adorned with black and white photographs. Her eyes were immediately drawn to one picture in particular, a young, smiling woman holding a small girl in her arms. "This way, please," Nathan's voice brought her back to the present. He guided her into a cozy living room, where colorful toys contrasted with the sophisticated decor. "Sorry about the mess. My daughter, Lily, has a gift for spreading her things everywhere." Amelia smiled, feeling a little more relaxed. "Don't worry. It's nice to see a house that looks lived in." Nathan indicated a comfortable sofa for her to sit on, while he occupied an armchair opposite. For a moment, there was an uncomfortable silence, both studying each other discreetly. "So, Miss Parker, please call me Amelia," she interrupted gently. Nathan nodded, a slight smile on his lips. "Amelia, tell me a bit about yourself. Your CV mentions experience in marketing, but I don't see anything related to childcare." Amelia felt her heart race. It was the moment she had been dreading, the moment to explain her situation without revealing too much. "Well, Mr. Caulfield—" "Nathan, please," he mimicked, making her smile nervously. "Nathan," she continued, "you're right. My professional background is in marketing, but I grew up in a large family, always looking after my younger cousins, and, to be honest, I'm in a moment of transition in my life. I'm looking for something more meaningful." Nathan's eyes locked onto hers, as if trying to read beyond her words. "Transition? Can you elaborate?" Amelia took a deep breath. "Recently, I realized that my previous career wasn't aligned with my values and life goals. I want to do something that really makes a difference, even on a small scale. Caring for a child, helping them grow and develop, seems incredibly rewarding." She paused, debating internally whether to mention her pregnancy. She decided that honesty was the best policy. "Besides, I'm expecting a child. This experience has made me reevaluate a lot of things." Nathan's face lit up with surprise and then understanding. His eyes briefly lowered to Amelia's belly, which was cleverly disguised by her loose clothing. "I see," he said softly. "And Dad?" Amelia felt a lump in her throat. "He's not in the picture," she answered simply. Nathan nodded without pressing further. "Well, Amelia, I appreciate your honesty. Many would have hidden this information." Before Amelia could reply, a noise from upstairs caught their attention. "Daddy?" a childish voice called out. "Daddy, where are you?" Nathan smiled apologetically. "Looks like someone woke up from their nap early. Do you mind if I bring her here? After all, if everything works out, you two will be spending a lot of time together." Amelia nodded, feeling a mixture of nervousness and anticipation. As Nathan climbed the stairs, she took the opportunity to look around more carefully. The living room was full of small details that spoke of a loving family. Children's drawings stuck to the fridge, visible through the kitchen door, a bookshelf full of children's books and photo albums, a small, colorful blanket thrown carelessly over the arm of the sofa. Minutes later, Nathan returned, holding the hand of a little brown-haired girl with curious eyes. "Lily," Amelia assumed. "Lily, darling, this is Miss Amelia. She can be your new nanny. Would you like to say hello?" The girl partially hid behind her father's leg, looking at Amelia with a mixture of curiosity and shyness. Amelia felt her heart melt. She bent down to meet the child's eyes and smiled gently. "Hello, Lily. It's nice to meet you. I really like your Frozen t-shirt." Lily's eyes lit up. "Do you like Elsa?" she asked, her voice small but excited. "Of course. She's amazing. You know, I can even sing Let It Go. Do you want to hear it?" Lily nodded enthusiastically, stepping out from behind her father. Amelia began to sing softly, making dramatic gestures that made the girl laugh. Nathan watched the scene with a smile, clearly impressed. When the song ended, Lily was practically jumping up and down with excitement. "Again! Again!" Nathan laughed. "Maybe later, dear. How about showing Miss Amelia your room? I'm sure she'd love to see all your toys." Lily didn't need any more encouragement. She grabbed Amelia's hand and started pulling her towards the stairs, chattering about her favorite dolls and books. As they climbed, Amelia glanced at Nathan, who nodded encouragingly. She felt a wave of relief and hope. Maybe, just maybe, this could work out. Lily's room was a pink paradise, with a castle-shaped bed and shelves full of toys. The little girl immediately began showing off her most prized possessions to Amelia, who responded with genuine interest to each new wonder. After a few minutes, Nathan appeared at the door. "Lily, dear, how about you go and play in the garden while I finish talking to Miss Amelia?" The girl pouted, but agreed after extracting a promise that Amelia would come back to play later. Back in the living room, Nathan seemed more relaxed, almost relieved. "Well, Amelia, I must say I'm impressed. Lily is usually very shy with strangers, but she seems to have connected with you immediately." Amelia felt her cheeks blush slightly at the compliment. "She's a lovely child. You must be very close." A shadow passed across Nathan's face. "We are, ever since her mother. Well, it's just been the two of us for the last 3 years." Amelia felt a tightness in her chest, remembering the photo in the entrance hall. "I'm sorry," she said softly. Nathan waved his hand as if to ward off the sadness. "Thank you. We're moving on day after day. That's why this position is so important. I need someone who isn't just a babysitter, but a constant, loving presence in Lily's life." He paused, studying Amelia intently. "Your pregnancy. When is the due date?" "The end of February," Amelia replied, feeling suddenly vulnerable. Nathan nodded thoughtfully. "That would give us about 5 months before the birth, and then what?" Amelia felt a chill in her stomach. It was now or never. "Honestly, I don't know. I'm taking it one day at a time, but I can promise that, while I'm here, I'll do my best for Lily. And if you're willing, I'd love to continue after the baby is born. I know it's a lot to ask, but—" "Tell you what," Nathan interrupted her gently. "Why don't we start with a trial period? Say, a month. You can move into the guest room for the weekend. We'll see how things go, and if everything works out, we can discuss long-term arrangements, including after the birth of your baby." Amelia felt a wave of emotion run through her. It was more than she had dared to hope for. That would be wonderful. Thank you, Nathan. I promise you won't regret it." Nathan smiled, holding out his hand to seal the deal. When Amelia squeezed it, she felt an electric current run through her body. Their gazes met for a moment too long, and she felt her heart racing for reasons she preferred not to examine too closely. "Well," Nathan said, breaking the moment, "welcome to the family, Amelia." As she prepared to leave, making plans for her move at the weekend, Amelia couldn't help feeling that she was on the threshold of something new and exciting. The uncertainties were still there, hovering at the edges of her consciousness, but for the first time in months, she felt a spark of real hope. As she left the house, she took one last look back. At the second-floor window, she saw Lily waving enthusiastically. Next to her, Nathan was smiling, his gaze fixed on Amelia in a way that made her blush again. With a final nod, Amelia began her walk back to the subway station. The future was still uncertain, but now it seemed full of possibilities. And as she walked, she couldn't help but smile, her hand resting gently on her belly. "Well, little one," she murmured, "it looks like our lives are about to change." Again. The sound of children's laughter echoed through the Caulfield house, mingling with the aroma of freshly made pancakes. Amelia smiled to herself as she flipped another pancake in the frying pan. It had been a month since she had moved into the guest room, and the routine she had established with Lily and Nathan already seemed natural, as if it had always been like this. "One more, Liv, one more!" Lily shouted from the kitchen table, where she sat with her legs dangling, unable to reach the floor. "Calm down, little one," Amelia laughed, putting another pancake on the girl's plate. "If you eat any more, you'll turn into a pancake yourself." Lily giggled at the idea, her eyes sparkling with joy. "Daddy, do you think I'd look good as a pancake?" Nathan, who was sitting next to his daughter going over some work documents, looked up and smiled. "I think you'd be lovely as anything, Princess, but I prefer you as my Lily." Amelia watched the interaction between father and daughter, feeling a twinge of emotion. Over the last 30 days, she had witnessed countless moments like this, small, precious instants of love and connection that made her heart squeeze in a bittersweet way. As she turned to turn off the stove, Amelia felt a sudden wave of nausea. She took a deep breath, leaning on the worktop for a moment. "Liv, are you all right?" Nathan's voice was full of concern. She turned around, forcing a smile. "I'm fine. Just a bit of morning sickness. It'll pass soon." Nathan frowned, clearly not convinced. "Are you sure you can take the morning off if you need to rest?" No, Amelia insisted, straightening up. "Honestly, I'm fine. Besides, I promised a certain lady that we'd go to the park today, didn't I?" Lily, who had been listening to the conversation with growing concern, immediately perked up. "Yes, park. Can we go now, Liv? Please." Amelia laughed, grateful for the distraction. "First, we have to finish breakfast and tidy up the kitchen. Then we'll get properly dressed and then it's off to the park." While Lily attacked her pancakes with renewed enthusiasm, Amelia started cleaning up the mess. Nathan got up to help, standing next to her at the sink. "You know you can tell me if things get too heavy, right?" he said quietly, his blue eyes full of sincere concern. Amelia felt her heart race at his closeness. "I know, Nathan, and I appreciate it, but I'm fine, I promise. This," she gestured to her slightly rounded belly, "is perfectly normal." Nathan nodded slowly, still looking a little worried. For a moment, they stood there, too close, the air between them charged with an unspoken tension. Amelia could feel the heat emanating from Nathan's body and had to resist the urge to lean closer. The moment was broken by the sound of a plate crashing to the floor. They both turned to see Lily with a guilty expression, surrounded by shards of porcelain and the remains of a pancake. "I'm sorry," the girl mumbled, her eyes filling with tears. Amelia reacted instinctively, moving to comfort Lily before Nathan could do so. "It's okay, sweetheart. Accidents happen. Let's clean it up together, okay?" While Amelia and Lily cleaned up the mess, Nathan watched them with a thoughtful expression. There was something about the way Amelia interacted with her daughter that touched him deeply. It was as if she had filled a void that he hadn't even known existed in their lives. An hour later, the three of them were in the local park. Lily ran from one toy to another, her energy seemingly endless, while Amelia and Nathan watched her from a nearby bench. "She really loves you," Nathan commented, his eyes following his daughter's movements. Amelia smiled, a hand resting gently on her belly. "And I adore her. She's an amazing child, Nathan. You've done a wonderful job raising her." Nathan lowered his gaze, a shadow passing across his face. "I try to do the best I can, but sometimes I wonder if it's enough. If she doesn't miss—" "A mother," Amelia added softly. Nathan nodded, still not looking at her. Amelia hesitated for a moment before placing her hand on his. "Nathan, look at her. See how happy, confident, full of life she is. This is the result of the love you give her every day. Yes, losing her mother is a pain she will always carry, but you're doing an incredible job filling both roles." Nathan finally looked at her, his eyes shining with restrained emotion. "Thank you, Liv. That means a lot." They stood like that for a moment, hands linked, gazes connected. Amelia felt her heart racing again, aware that she was crossing a dangerous line. She was the nanny, after all. She couldn't allow herself to develop feelings for her employer. The moment was interrupted by Lily, who came running up to them. "Daddy, Liv, look what I found." The girl held out her hands, revealing a small daisy she had picked. "It's beautiful, Lily." Amelia smiled, quickly removing her hand from Nathan's. "What do you say we make a wreath when we get home?" Lily's eyes lit up at the idea, and soon she was pulling Amelia along to help her gather more flowers. Nathan watched them walk away, a soft smile on his lips. As the afternoon progressed, Amelia couldn't help but notice the glances Nathan cast in her direction. There was something in them, a mixture of gratitude, admiration, and something else she didn't dare to name, that made her feel both thrilled and apprehensive. Back at the Caulfield house, while helping Lily make the promised wreath, Amelia found herself reflecting on how quickly this family had become important to her. In just 1 month, she had found a home, a purpose, and what? Friends. Family. Her thoughts were interrupted by a movement in her womb, the first clearly perceptible kick of her baby. Amelia froze, one hand flying to her belly. "Liv, what is it?" Lily asked, noticing her surprised expression. "The baby," Amelia whispered, a smile spreading across her face. "He's kicking." Lily's eyes widened with excitement. "Can I feel it, please?" Amelia nodded, guiding the girl's hand to the right spot. When another kick came, Lily let out a squeal of delight. "Daddy, Daddy, come here, Liv's baby is dancing." Nathan appeared in the doorway, an expression of curiosity on his face. He hesitated for a moment before approaching. "Do you want to feel it too?" Amelia offered, surprising herself. Nathan seemed momentarily speechless, but then knelt down beside them, his large, warm hand resting gently on Amelia's belly. When the baby kicked again, a radiant smile lit up Nathan's face. "Wow," he murmured, his eyes meeting Amelia's. "It's amazing." At that moment, with Nathan and Lily's hands on her belly, feeling her baby move, Amelia was struck by an overwhelming realization. This feeling of belonging, of connection, was what she had always wanted, and it was exactly what she couldn't have. She was the nanny. They were her employers, and in a few months she would have her own child to look after. The lines between the professional and the personal were already blurring. With a forced smile, Amelia gently pushed Nathan and Lily's hands away. "I think the show's over for now," she said, trying to keep her voice light. "How about we finish that wreath, Lily?" While the girl agreed enthusiastically, Amelia avoided Nathan's gaze. She couldn't see the mixture of emotions in his eyes, desire, confusion, a touch of guilt. She couldn't allow her own feelings to complicate the situation further. Later that night, after Lily had been put to bed, Amelia retired to her room, claiming to be tired. Sitting on her bed, one hand resting protectively on her belly, she faced the harsh truth she had spent the day trying to avoid. She was falling in love with Nathan Caulfield, and nothing good could come of it. With a heavy sigh, Amelia picked up her phone and opened the job search app. Maybe it was time to start looking for other options. As much as the idea of leaving the Caulfields hurt, she knew it was the right thing to do. Meanwhile, downstairs, Nathan was sitting in his office and staring at a photo of his late wife. "What do I do, Monica?" he muttered to the smiling image. "How can I be feeling this way again? Is it right? Is it fair to you? With Lily?" The silence of the house was his only answer, leaving Nathan alone with his conflicting thoughts and an increasingly confused heart. Fall had arrived in Chicago, painting the streets in shades of red and gold. Amelia watched the falling leaves through Lily's bedroom window, where she was folding freshly washed clothes. Her movements were mechanical, her mind distant, lost in thoughts she had been trying to avoid for the last few weeks. It had been 2 months since she had moved in with the Caulfields, and every day seemed to make things more complicated. Her feelings for Nathan, feelings she tried hard to ignore, only seemed to grow. And worse, she began to suspect that he might feel the same way. A movement in her stomach brought her back to the present. Amelia rested her hand on her belly, now visibly rounded. "Hey, little one," she murmured. "Are you restless today too?" "Liv! Liv!" Lily's excited voice echoed down the corridor, seconds before the girl burst into the room. "Look what I did at school." Lily held out a colorful drawing, showing 3 stick figures, a large one, a medium one, and a small one. Amelia felt her heart squeeze as she recognized herself as the middle figure, her round belly clearly drawn. "It's beautiful, Lily," Amelia smiled, kneeling down so that she was at the girl's height. "Do you want to tell me about him?" "That's our family," Lily exclaimed, pointing to each figure. "That's Daddy, that's you, and that's me, and look," she pointed to a smaller circle next to Amelia's figure. "That's the baby." Amelia felt her throat close up. Family. The word echoed in her mind, bringing a mixture of joy and pain. It's wonderful, darling," she managed to say, fighting back the tears that threatened to fall. "Can I hang it on the fridge?" Lily asked, her eyes shining with anticipation. "Of course you can," Amelia replied, forcing a smile. "Why don't you show it to your father first? I'm sure he'll love it." As soon as Lily had left the room, Amelia allowed herself a moment of weakness. She sat down on the girl's bed, the tears finally escaping. That was what made it so hard, the way Lily saw her as part of the family, the way she herself was beginning to feel at home here. But it wasn't real. It couldn't be. Downstairs, Nathan was in his office when Lily entered, waving the drawing in the air. "Daddy, look what I've done." Nathan smiled, picking up his daughter. "Let me see this masterpiece." As Lily animatedly explained the drawing, Nathan felt his heart race. Seeing Amelia portrayed there, as part of his family, stirred up emotions that he had been struggling to suppress. "It's beautiful, Princess," he said, kissing the top of Lily's head. "How about we hang it on the fridge?" While sticking the drawing with magnets, Nathan couldn't help but think how perfectly Amelia had fit into their lives. She wasn't just an exceptional nanny for Lily. She had brought a light back into the house that Nathan hadn't even noticed was missing since Monica's death. But she was pregnant, expecting her own child, and he was her employer. The complications were numerous, and Nathan knew he needed to keep his professional distance. Yet every smile from her, every moment of connection, made it more and more difficult. His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps on the stairs. Amelia appeared in the kitchen, her eyes slightly red but with a smile on her face. "Hey," she said softly. "Lily told me about the drawing. It's lovely, isn't it?" Nathan nodded, his eyes meeting hers. "It is. She's very talented." For a moment they stood there, a heavy silence between them. There were so many unspoken things, so many repressed emotions. It was Amelia who finally broke the moment. I finished folding Lily's clothes. I'll start dinner now." "Liv, wait," Nathan called out as she turned to go. I wanted to talk to you about something." Amelia felt her heart racing. "Of course." "What is it?" Nathan hesitated, running his hand through his hair in a nervous gesture. "It's about your contract. The probationary period is over and, well, you've been amazing. More than we could have hoped for. I'd like to make your permanent position here official, Baum, if you're interested." Amelia blinked in surprise. Part of her wanted to shout yes immediately, to embrace this chance to stay with them. But the rational part of her mind sounded the alarm. "Nathan, I don't know what to say," she began, choosing her words carefully. "I'm very happy that you're satisfied with my work. But what about the baby? It's only 3 months away now. I don't know if I can promise." "We'll make it work," Nathan interrupted, taking a step towards her. "Amelia, you've become part of this family. I can't imagine our life without you now. We can adapt your schedule. Hire extra help when the baby is born. Whatever it takes. Amelia felt the tears welling up in her eyes. Nathan's words were everything she wanted to hear, and at the same time, everything she feared. "Nathan, she began, but was interrupted by the sound of the doorbell. They both turned around, surprised. Nathan frowned, clearly not expecting anyone. "I'll get it," Amelia said, grateful for the interruption. She opened the door and froze. Standing before her was a tall man with dark hair and familiar eyes. Eyes she saw every time she looked in the mirror. "Dad," she whispered, shocked. The man smiled nervously. "Hello, Livy. May I come in?" Amelia was paralyzed for a moment, unable to process the situation. Her father, whom she hadn't spoken to in months, was standing there in the doorway of the Caulfield house. "Amelia, is everything all right?" Nathan's voice sounded behind her, full of concern. She turned, finding Nathan standing in the hallway, Lily peeking curiously from behind her father's legs. Yes," Amelia stammered, trying to regain her composure. "Nathan, this is my father, Michael Parker. Dad, this is Nathan Caulfield, my employer." Nathan held out his hand, clearly surprised but still cordial. "Mr. Parker, nice to meet you. Please come in." Michael entered, his eyes scanning the interior of the house before settling on Amelia's belly. "You're bigger than I thought." Amelia instinctively crossed her arms over her belly. "What are you doing here, Dad?" Michael sighed. "Your mother's worried. We're worried. You've hardly spoken to us since you moved here." "We came to Chicago on business and I thought I'd stop by and see how you were." Amelia asked, feeling a knot in her stomach. As if answering her question, another figure appeared in the open doorway, a middle-aged woman with the same green eyes as Amelia. "Mom," Amelia whispered, suddenly feeling very small and vulnerable. The tension in the air was palpable. Nathan, realizing the delicacy of the situation, turned to Lily. "Princess, how about we go and play upstairs for a while? We'll let Amelia talk to her parents." Lily, feeling the heavy atmosphere, just nodded, taking her father's hand. As Nathan and Lily climbed the stairs, Amelia found herself alone with her parents for the first time in months. The silence was deafening. So, her mother, Catherine, finally spoke up. "This is where you're living. As a nanny." The tone of disapproval was evident, making Amelia cringe internally. "Yes, Mom, as a nanny. And I'm happy here." Michael stepped forward, his eyes full of concern. "Livy, we understand that you were going through a difficult time, but this, giving up your career, moving to another city, working as a nanny while pregnant, that's not you." Amelia felt anger bubbling up inside her. "And who am I, Dad? The perfect daughter you've always wanted? The successful executive with the ideal boyfriend? Well, guess what? That Amelia doesn't exist anymore." Catherine approached, holding out a hesitant hand. "Darling, we only want what's best for you, and for the baby. Why don't you go back to Boston? We can help with the baby. You can resume your career." "No," Amelia exclaimed, louder than she had intended. She took a deep breath, trying to calm down. "You don't understand. For the first time in a long time, I feel good, useful, happy." His parents exchanged worried glances. Michael sniffed. "What about the baby's father? Does he know you're here?" Amelia felt as if she'd been punched in the stomach. "Mark, he's not part of my life now. Or the baby." "Oh, Amelia," Catherine sighed. "You can't do this alone. Come home. We can fix things with Mark, I'm sure." "There's nothing to fix," Amelia exploded, tears of frustration streaming down her face. "Don't you understand? I don't want to go back. I don't want the life you planned for me. I want this life, here." The silence that followed was deafening. Amelia could see the confusion and hurt in her parents' eyes, but she also felt a wave of relief at finally saying what was in her heart. It was at this moment that Nathan reappeared on the stairs, his eyes full of concern. "Is everything all right here?" Amelia turned to him, grateful for his presence. "Yes, Nathan, it's Fine. Michael and Catherine observed the interaction between the two, a new understanding emerging in their gazes. Amelia, her father began, his voice softer now. We just want to understand. Are you really happy here? Amelia looked at Nathan, then back at her parents. Yes, Dad, I am, more than I have been in a long time. Catherine stepped forward, taking her daughter's hands. We just want you to be safe, happy. If that's what you really want. It is, Mom, Amelia replied, feeling the tears return to her eyes. It's what I want. The rest of the evening was a mixture of tense conversations and moments of hesitant understanding. Nathan, showing a kindness that made Amelia's heart clench, invited the Parkers to dinner. During the meal, Lily charmed the grandparents she didn't know she had, her innocence and joy breaking some of the tension. When it was finally time for the Parkers to leave, there was a new understanding between them and Amelia. It wasn't perfect, far from it, but it was a start. Call more often, Catherine urged, hugging her daughter. We want to be part of our grandson's life. Amelia nodded, feeling a lump in her throat. I will, Mom, I promise. After her parents left, Amelia found herself alone with Nathan in the living room, Lily already in bed. The silence between them was charged with unspoken emotions. Thank you, Amelia finally said, for everything, for dinner, for being so understanding. Nathan took a step towards her, his hand hesitating in the air before falling at his side. Liv, I meant every word I said before about you being part of this family. Amelia felt her heart race. Nathan, No, he interrupted her gently. You don't have to say anything now. Just think about it, okay? About staying, permanently. She nodded, unable to find words. Nathan smiled softly before turning to go upstairs. Alone in the living room, Amelia placed a hand on her belly, feeling the gentle movements of her baby. The emotions of the day hit her like a wave, and she allowed herself to cry, of relief, of fear, of hope. She didn't know what the future held. Her feelings for Nathan, the challenges of being a single mother, her parents' expectations, all of this still hung over her. But for the first time in a long time, Amelia felt that she was exactly where she should be. With a deep sigh, she looked at Lily's drawing on the fridge. Family. Maybe, just maybe, she had found hers. Winter came to Chicago with an icy fury, covering the city in a white blanket of snow. Inside the Caulfield house, however, the warmth of the family kept out the cold. Amelia, now 8 months pregnant, watched through the living room window as Nathan and Lily built a snowman in the garden. Her fingers absent-mindedly traced the contours of her prominent belly, feeling the baby's restless movements. Calm down, little one, she murmured. It's not time yet. The last 2 months since her parents' visit had been an emotional roller coaster. Amelia had decided to stay, accepting Nathan's offer of a permanent contract. But with this decision came complications that she could no longer ignore. Her feelings for Nathan had only grown, and she suspected he felt the same. There were glances that lasted a little longer than they should have, casual touches that sent goosebumps across her skin, moments of silence fraught with unresolved tension. It was a dangerous dance, and Amelia knew they were approaching a point of no return. A joyful cry from Lily brought her back to the present. The girl was running in circles around the newly built snowman, her face red with cold and excitement. Nathan watched her with a smile, his gaze occasionally turning to the window where Amelia stood. When their eyes met, Amelia felt that familiar wave of warmth spread through her chest. She smiled and waved, and Nathan returned the gesture before turning to his daughter. The sound of the telephone interrupted the moment. Amelia turned away from the window to answer it, recognizing her mother's number on the caller ID. "Hello, Mum," she answered, mentally preparing herself for the conversation. "Amelia, darling." Catherine's voice sounded on the other end of the line. "How are you, and the baby?" "We're fine, Mum," Amelia replied, taking a seat on the sofa. "The doctor says everything's normal. I should give birth in about 4 weeks." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "And you're still there, with that family?" Amelia sighed. Despite the visit and subsequent conversations, her parents still had difficulty accepting her choice of life. Yes, Mom, I'm still with the Caulfields. In fact, Nathan offered me a permanent contract. Oh, Livy, Catherine sighed. Do you really think that's the best decision? Raising your child while looking after someone else's? Mom, please, Amelia pleaded. We've been over this. I'm happy here. Lily is a wonderful child. And Nathan... She hesitated, unsure of how to describe Nathan. And Nathan, Catherine pressed. Amelia, is there something you're not telling me? Amelia closed her eyes, feeling the weight of her unexpressed feelings. It's nothing, Mom. Nathan is... He's a good man, a good father, a good friend. Friend, Catherine repeated, her tone making it clear that she didn't entirely believe it. Amelia, you need to be careful. Remember, he's your employer, and you're about to have a baby. Things are complicated enough without... I know, Mom, Amelia interrupted her. Believe me, I know. The conversation continued for a few more minutes, with Catherine expressing her concern and Amelia trying to reassure her. When she finally hung up, Amelia felt emotionally exhausted. The front door opened, bringing in a gust of cold air and the cheerful sounds of Lily and Nathan returning from the garden. Liv! Liv! Have you seen our snowman? Lily exclaimed, rushing into the living room still dressed in her heavy winter coat. Amelia smiled, grateful for the distraction. I did, darling. It's beautiful. You've done a great job. Nathan came in right behind her, taking off his coat. His eyes met Amelia's, and she could see the concern in them. Is everything all right? I heard you on the phone. Oh, well, it was just my mum, Amelia replied, trying to sound casual. You know how she is. Nathan nodded, understanding. Do you want to talk about it? Before Amelia could answer, Lily interrupted. Daddy, can we make some hot chocolate, please? Nathan laughed, ruffling his daughter's hair. Of course, Princess. Why don't you take off your wet clothes first? I'll prepare the hot chocolate for all of us. As Lily climbed the stairs, Nathan turned to Amelia. Are you sure everything's all right? You look... tense. Amelia hesitated. There was so much she wanted to say, so much she needed to say. But the words seemed stuck in her throat. At that moment, a sharp pain shot through her abdomen, making her gasp and bend forward. Liv! Nathan's voice was full of alarm. He was at her side in an instant, a hand on her back. What's wrong? Is it the baby? Amelia took a deep breath, waiting for the pain to pass. I think so, she murmured. But it's too soon. There are still 4 weeks to go. Nathan helped her sit down on the sofa. I'll call an ambulance. It might just be a false alarm, but it's better not to risk it. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. Nathan called the ambulance while trying to calm a frightened Lily. Amelia concentrated on her breathing, trying not to panic. At the hospital, after hours of tests and monitoring, the doctor finally entered the room with news. Mrs. Parker, it looks like it was just a false alarm. What you experienced were Braxton Hicks contractions. It's common at this stage of pregnancy. Amelia let out a sigh of relief, her hand clasping Nathan's, who hadn't left her side since they arrived at the hospital. However, the doctor continued, given the stress of the event, we would like to keep you under observation for tonight, and when you go home, you'll need absolute rest until the birth. Nathan nodded, his expression serious. Don't worry, doctor. We'll make sure she gets proper rest. After the doctor left, Amelia turned to Nathan, tears in her eyes. Nathan, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cause all this trouble. Lily must be so scared, and you had to drop everything to bring me here. Shh, Nathan interrupted her gently, his hand still holding hers. Don't apologize. You and the baby are the priority now. Lily is fine. She's with Mrs. Johnson, our neighbor. There's nowhere else I should be but here with you. Nathan's words, spoken with such sincerity, made Amelia's heart race. She looked down at their entwined hands, feeling the warmth and comfort that his touch provided. Nathan, she began, her voice trembling slightly. There's something we need to talk about. Nathan leaned closer, his eyes fixed on hers. What is it, Liv? Amelia took a deep breath, gathering her courage. It was now or never. "I think I'm in love with you," she whispered, the words finally escaping. The silence that followed seemed deafening. Amelia could hear her own heart pounding in her ears, fearing she had made a terrible mistake. But then, slowly, a smile spread across Nathan's face. He brought her hand to his lips, placing a soft kiss on her fingers. "Liv," he murmured, "I'm sure I'm in love with you." The tears Amelia had been holding back finally overflowed. But it's so complicated," she sobbed. "I'm your employee. I'm about to have a baby." Lily loves you," Nathan interrupted her gently. "And as for the rest, we'll sort it out. Together, if you want." Amelia looked into Nathan's eyes, seeing in them all the love and promise of a future she had barely dared to dream of. Slowly, she nodded. "I want to," she whispered. Nathan leaned in, his lips meeting hers in a soft kiss full of promise. When they broke apart, they were both smiling, their foreheads resting against each other. "Rest now," Nathan murmured. "Tomorrow we'll start our new chapter." As Amelia settled down to sleep, Nathan sitting next to her, she couldn't help thinking about how her life had changed over the last few months. From being pregnant and unemployed to finding not only a job but a family, and a love she had never expected. The future was still uncertain. There would be challenges ahead, explaining to Lily, dealing with her parents' expectations, navigating the dynamics of their new relationship while preparing for the baby's arrival. But for the first time in a long time, Amelia felt truly hopeful. With a smile on her lips, she closed her eyes, one hand resting protectively on her belly, the other still entwined with Nathan's. Tomorrow would bring what it had to. Tomorrow would bring whatever it had to bring. For now, everything was exactly as it should be. The morning arrived with blinding clarity, the winter sunlight reflecting off the snow outside the hospital window. Amelia blinked, waking up slowly. And the first thing she saw was Nathan, asleep in the chair next to her bed, his hand still entwined with hers. The events of the night before came flooding back in a wave of emotions, the fright at the contractions, the rush to the hospital, and finally, the mutual confession of their feelings. For a moment, Amelia wondered if it had all been a dream. As if sensing her gaze, Nathan began to move, his eyes slowly opening. When his gaze met hers, a soft smile spread across his face. "Good morning," he murmured, his voice hoarse with sleep. "Good morning," Amelia replied, feeling her heart race. "Have you been here all night?" Nathan nodded, sitting up straighter and stretching his back. "I couldn't leave even if I wanted to." There was a moment of silence, both of them clearly uncertain about how to proceed after the revelations of the night before. "Nathan," Amelia began, her voice trembling, "about last night." "I meant every word," Nathan interrupted her gently, squeezing her hand. "But I understand if you want to reconsider. I know the situation is complicated." Amelia shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. "I don't want to reconsider. I'm just scared. It's all so new, so unexpected, and there are so many things to consider. Lily, the baby, my job." Nathan leaned forward, his hands framing Amelia's face. "We'll sort all this out together, one step at a time, okay?" Amelia nodded, leaning into his touch. "Okay." The moment was interrupted by the arrival of the doctor, who came to make one last assessment before releasing Amelia. After a few tests and strict recommendations for rest, they were finally cleared to go home. The journey back was silent, both lost in thought about what was to come next. When they arrived at the Caulfield house, no, Amelia mentally corrected, our house now, Lily was waiting for them at the door, practically bouncing with anxiety. "Liv," the little girl shouted, running to hug Amelia as soon as she got out of the car. "Are you all right? Is the baby all right?" Amelia smiled, stroking Lily's hair. "We're fine, sweetheart. It was just a scare." Nathan watched the interaction with a smile, but Amelia could see the concern in his eyes. They still needed to talk to Lily about the change in their relationship. Once inside the house, with Amelia comfortably settled on the sofa as per the doctor's orders, Nathan knelt down in front of Lily, "Princess, Liv and I need to talk to you about something important." Lily looked from Nathan to Amelia, her expression curious. "What is it, Daddy?" Nathan took a deep breath, casting a quick glance at Amelia before continuing. "You know I love you more than anything in the world, right?" Lily nodded. "And you know that ever since Mum went to heaven, it's been just the two of us." Again, Lily nodded, her expression turning serious. "Well," Nathan continued, "sometimes, when we're not looking, love finds a way back into our lives, and that's what happened with Liv and me." Lily frowned, processing the information. "Do you love Liv like you loved Mom?" Nathan smiled softly. "It's a different kind of love. But yes, I love Liv." "And we wanted to know how you felt about that." There was a moment of tense silence as Lily seemed to ponder the situation. Amelia held her breath, her heart beating rapidly. Finally, Lily looked at Amelia. "Does this mean you're staying forever? You, the baby, and Daddy?" Amelia felt tears forming in her eyes. "If it's all right with you, darling." "Yes, we'd love to stay." Lily's face lit up with a radiant smile. "Yes, I've always wanted a little sister or brother." Nathan laughed, pulling Lily into a hug. "Well, it looks like we have the approval of the head of the house." The next few days were a mixture of adjustments and expectations. Amelia officially moved into Nathan's room, although they decided to take things slowly, especially considering her condition. The news of their relationship was met with mixed reactions. Neighbors and close friends were happy for them, seeing how Nathan seemed lighter and more cheerful than he had been in years. Amelia's parents, however, were more cautious. "Are you sure about this, Livy?" her mother asked during a video call. "It's a big change, especially with the baby coming." "I am, Mom," Amelia replied firmly. "I know it seems sudden to you, but Nathan and I, this is real." "It's right." Her father, who had remained silent until then, finally spoke. "We just want you to be happy and safe, dear. If this man and this life are what you want, then you have our support." Her father's words brought tears to Amelia's eyes. "Thank you, Dad. That means a lot to me." As the days turned into weeks, the Caulfield house, now home to the Caulfield Parkers, was filled with a new energy. Nathan and Amelia worked together to transform the old office into a baby room, with Lily helping to choose colors and decorations. One evening, while Amelia was sitting in the rocking chair in the baby's room, stroking her now enormous belly, Nathan quietly walked in. "Hey," he said softly, kneeling down beside her. "How are you two?" Amelia smiled, taking Nathan's hand and placing it on her belly. "We're fine, although I think this little one is getting impatient." Nathan laughed, feeling the baby's movements under his hand. "I can't blame him. I can't wait to meet him too." There was a moment of comfortable silence before Nathan spoke again, his voice serious. "Liv, there's something I want to ask you." Amelia felt her heart racing. "What is it?" Nathan took a deep breath, as if gathering his courage. "I know this all happened very quickly, and I understand if you think it's too soon, but I love you, Amelia. I love you. I love this baby, and I love the family we're building together." He paused, reaching for something in his pocket. When he opened his hand, there was a small velvet box. "Amelia Parker, would you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" Amelia gasped, tears immediately filling her eyes. For a moment, she was speechless, overwhelmed by the emotion of the moment. "Nathan, she began, her voice trembling. But before she could answer, she felt a sharp pain shoot through her abdomen. Her eyes widened in shock. "Nathan," she gasped, "I think the baby is coming." Nathan's eyes widened in alarm and excitement. "Now, are you sure?" Another contraction hit Amelia, making her groan in pain. "I'm pretty sure," she said through clenched teeth. What followed was a controlled rush. Nathan helped Amelia to her feet, shouting for Lily to get the hospital bag that was already packed. Within minutes, they were in the car on the way to the hospital, Lily in the back seat, her eyes big with excitement and worry. As Nathan drove, occasionally casting worried glances at Amelia, she couldn't help but laugh, despite the pain. "What?" Nathan asked, confused. Amelia smiled through tears of pain and joy. "You haven't had your answer yet," she said. Nathan frowned for a moment before he understood. A smile spread across his face. "Well, considering that you're about to give birth to our son, I think I can wait a little longer." Amelia took his hand, squeezing it tightly. "Yes," she said simply. "Yes," Nathan repeated, his eyes lighting up. "Yes, I'll marry you," Amelia replied, before another contraction hit her. In the back seat, Lily gave a cry of joy. "I'm going to have a new mother and a baby brother on the same day." As they approached the hospital, Amelia looked at Nathan, then at Lily in the back seat, and finally at her belly. Amidst the pain and anxiety of the impending birth, she felt a wave of pure happiness. This was not the path she had planned for her life. It was better. It was real. It was love. And now, with the birth of her son and a bright future ahead of her, Amelia knew she had found her true home. The high-pitched cry of a newborn echoed through the delivery room, mingling with Amelia's emotional sobs and Nathan's words of encouragement. After hours of intense labor, their son had finally arrived in the world. "It's a boy," the doctor announced, lifting the baby up so that the parents could see. Nathan, with tears in his eyes, cut the umbilical cord with trembling hands. Moments later, the little bundle was placed in Amelia's arms. "Hello, my love," she whispered, her voice tinged with emotion. "Welcome to the world." Nathan leaned over, kissing Amelia's forehead before gently touching the baby's cheek. "He's perfect," he said in amazement. For a few minutes, the world seemed to disappear around them. It was just the three of them, Amelia, Nathan, and their newborn son, absorbed in a bubble of love and admiration. The moment was interrupted by a soft knock on the door. A nurse entered, smiling gently. "There's a very anxious young lady outside. May I let her in?" Nathan and Amelia exchanged glances and smiles. "Of course," Nathan replied. "Let her in." Lily timidly entered the room, her eyes wide with curiosity and excitement. Mrs. Johnson, the neighbor who had stayed with her during the birth, followed close behind. "Come and meet your little brother, Lily," Amelia called softly. Lily approached the bed, standing on tiptoe to get a better view of the baby. Her face lit up with a smile. "He's so tiny," she exclaimed in a reverent whisper. Nathan picked Lily up on his lap so she could get a better look. "What do you think, Princess? Do you approve?" Lily nodded enthusiastically. "What's his name?" Amelia and Nathan exchanged glances. They had discussed names, but had never reached a final decision. Now, looking at her son's little face, Amelia knew exactly what it should be. "How about Lucas?" she suggested, looking at Nathan. "Lucas Caulfield Parker." Nathan smiled, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "Lucas," he repeated. "It's perfect." In the weeks that followed, the Caulfield Parker household adjusted to its new reality. Sleepless nights were mixed with moments of pure joy. Lily adapted surprisingly well to her role as big sister, always eager to help with Lucas. A month after Lucas was born, on a sunny spring afternoon, the backyard was decorated with flowers and ribbons. White chairs were arranged in rows, and a small arch covered in white roses was set up in the center. Amelia was standing in front of a mirror in the master bedroom, adjusting her simple but elegant white dress. Her mother, Catherine, was behind her, helping to fasten her veil. "You look beautiful, darling," Catherine said, her voice tinged with emotion. Amelia smiled at her mother's reflection. "Thank you, Mother, for everything. I know it wasn't easy for you and Dad to accept all this." Catherine shook her head, turning Amelia to face her. "Oh, Livy, seeing you now, so happy and fulfilled. How could we not? Nathan is a good man, and it's obvious how much he loves you. And Lily and Lucas, well, they're wonderful grandchildren." Tears formed in Amelia's eyes. "I love you, Mom." "I love you too, darling," Catherine replied, hugging her carefully so as not to wrinkle her dress. A soft knock on the door interrupted the moment. Lily entered, wearing a lovely bridesmaid's dress. "Liv, you look so beautiful." Amelia smiled, bending down to hug the girl. "You look beautiful too, Lily. Are you ready to be the best bridesmaid in the world?" Lily nodded enthusiastically. "Grandpa Michael says it's time. Everyone's waiting." Catherine gave Amelia one last hug before leaving to take her place at the ceremony. Amelia took a deep breath, picking up her bouquet. "Come on," she said to Lily. "Let's make it official." In the backyard, Nathan waited under the flower arch, his best friend by his side as best man. His eyes lit up when the music started, and Lily appeared, scattering rose petals along the path. And then Amelia appeared, arm in arm with her father. Nathan felt his heart skip a beat. She was radiant, her eyes fixed on his as she walked towards him. When they reached the altar, Michael handed Amelia's hand to Nathan. "Take good care of her," he said quietly. "With my life," Nathan promised. The ceremony was simple and emotional. They exchanged vows they had written for each other, words of love, commitment and gratitude for the unexpected journey that had brought them there. "I met you when I was lost," Amelia said, her voice trembling with emotion. "You and Lily gave me a home when I needed it most, and now, with Lucas, our family is complete. I love you, Nathan Caulfield, and I promise to love you and be by your side all the days of my life." Nathan fought back tears as he replied, "Amelia, you brought light back into my and Lily's life when we thought we had lost it forever. You showed us that love can bloom in the most unexpected places. I love you, and I promise to spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you make me." With the exchange of rings and a passionate kiss, they were pronounced husband and wife to the enthusiastic applause of their friends and family. The reception that followed was a joyous celebration of love and family. Lucas, in his grandmother Catherine's arms, watched everything with curious eyes. Lily danced with her grandfather Michael, laughing happily. In a quiet moment, Amelia and Nathan moved a little away from the party, watching their guests holding hands. "Happy?" Nathan asked, kissing Amelia's temple. She smiled, leaning against him. "More than I ever thought possible." Nathan pulled her closer. "You know, when Lily convinced me to hire a nanny, I never imagined I'd be gaining a wife and child in the process." Amelia laughed. "And I never imagined that a babysitting job would give me a family." They were silent for a moment, absorbing the scene before them. Their friends, their families, all gathered to celebrate their love. "What happens now?" Amelia asked softly. Nathan smiled, his eyes shining with love and promise. "Now, my love, we begin our new chapter, together." Amelia turned to him, wrapping her arms around his neck. "Together," she agreed, before pulling him into a kiss. As the sun set over the party, casting a golden glow over the backyard, Amelia couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought her there, from pregnant and unemployed to wife, mother, and part of a loving family. Life had a funny way of working out sometimes. As she danced with Nathan, Lily twirling around them and Lucas sleeping peacefully in his father's arms, Amelia knew with absolute certainty this was exactly where she was supposed to be. This was her happy ending, and also the beginning of something wonderful. And so, under the starry Chicago sky, surrounded by love and laughter, Amelia Caulfield Parker smiled, ready for whatever adventure the future might bring. Because now she knew, no matter what happened, she had a family, a home, and a love that could overcome any challenge. If this story touched your heart, then don't forget to leave a like. Use the super thanks located just below the video to directly support the channel and help create more amazing content. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. Now don't miss the next incredible story that's appearing on your screen. I greatly appreciate your support and hope to see you soon. Thank you for watching.